Hi. So we've got a few questions here. I'm going to answer in this one. So I want to look at some hole tolerances and bring them into drawings. So depending on whether in synchronous or ordered, it's ever so slightly different. I know in some other software there are ways of doing it while we create the hole. So let's have a look in ordered first. So if I just go into my ordered environment and have a look at the hole, there's a few different ways we can do this. So if I go in and edit the profile on the hole, here we've got our drawing, and we can go and add just a dimension. So we can just go and use our smart dimension, go and place that, choose the appropriate tolerance option that we need. So I can go and do a class for here, and then go and specify what type we're going to have, and then go and choose the appropriate type, and then place that. So place that in the sketch on there. Notice that's then going to disappear when we come out of that sketch. So on the PMI tab at the top here, we've got this option where we can do a copy to PMI. So we can click on the hole, click on the dimension that we want, accept, right click or green tick, and then we've got our PMI on the model. We can then use a tool which I'll show in a minute to bring that into the draft. So if we go back to our synchronous body, we don't have to worry about the sketch step, we just do exactly as we want directly on the geometry. So we can go and click on the appropriate geometry and go and apply the appropriate tolerance per hole that we go and select on there. If you are using synchronous, we haven't got holes, remember we have got this recognize hole. So if you've got imported geometry, we can go and do that way. And then for this one, I'm not going to do a tolerance, I'm just going to do a feature call out because this is some kind of counterbort. So that's going to give us that information. So if we then save that and go and create a draft for this item, so I'm just going to set my views properly. Top, and I'm just going to have that single view. So that's got my item. Just going to escape out of there. Now we can use an option here called retrieve dimensions. So this is going to allow us to go and retrieve the dimensions from this view. So all those items we added on there. So for some reason I've got 2 on there because I obviously created that within the sketch and outside, and we've then got those dimensions. We can then go and tidy all those dimensions up. Or they're not stacked dimensions, so we can't do that on there, but normally if you've got other dimensions we can go and bring those on there as well. We can also do that manually as well within the draft. So within the smart dimension command we can go and use that same kind of feature call out option. So if you've got the appropriate options, it should come up with those options, but we're not going to get the tolerance. We would have to manually go and add those tolerance. That's why it's useful. So it's really useful if you've got people who design the actual 3D models and then separate team drafting. Allows you to go and put the tolerance on. So you need to kind of set that up as a workflow that you're going to do with those people. Okay, next question. Option to create a plane between 2 parts. So quite often we want like a plane in the middle. So if I do a middle plane, obviously it's going to be to there. So say I want a plane between the front face of the chuck, excluding the jaws, and one of the faces on the back here. So for the plane commands option, so because I'm in assembly, I don't have to do this option. But these options where we can do a parallel, angle, normal to curve, but we haven't actually got a curve on there. So we can go and create a curve several different ways. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use a 3D sketch to go and create the appropriate kind of curve that I want on there. So I can go on here and I can go and try and connect to this. If we can't go and connect to that, we need to go and turn on our peers. So I've got this as a shortcut up here because I use that so often. That will allow us to go and link to the appropriate item on there. If we still can't, it might be because we haven't actually got that part activated. So I'm just going to double check and just make sure that part is activated first as well. So now I can go and click on that edge. That's then going to find the center point on there, and I can then go that way. Notice this is by default created a coaxial constraint, so I don't need to worry about what I'm doing. So I said I want to go to this face. So I can now go and find the appropriate point on there. Again, if it's not activated, I need to go and activate that part and then go and finish that line. So I've got that line going on there. So I've then snapped to that appropriate position on there. Okay, so I'm going to come out of my 3D sketch. I'm going to go and choose the plane option, plane normal to curve. This will then allow me to go and select that curve that I've just highlighted. If I've got problems with these parts highlighting, I'm just going to go and turn those options off. And I'm just going to go and turn those back on. There are options we can do within the filter options to change it if we need to. So notice now this position has got 0, 1, so it's got 0 at this end, 1 at that end. So if I type that in as 0.5, that is then going to, just do that 0.5, that's then going to position that exactly in the middle. If that line changes, that is going to update, because it is ordered, so it is reliant on that other item. However, if you are creating it between parts, there is actually a command. So if you're doing relationships called center plane, that allows us to put a cylinder between two faces, or two faces between two other faces as well. We can also connect key points as well. So think about when you are bringing those items in, bringing those in as a plane. Also, when you are editing items, remember that when you are doing your edit option, we can use this option on here, construction display, to go and temporarily show the planes. So if you want to do if you've built the model correctly around the center point, you probably have a plane that might be useful. Once that part is fully defined, those planes will then disappear again. Okay, next question is to do with sketching. So how, when we're sketching, can we go and create dimensions as we go and create the lines? So sometimes we want to be able to create those because we know exactly what we want to do. So if I want a line that's going to be 60 or 70 mil, we can have this option. So in the IntelliSketch options, so notice I'm in a sketch here, we've got this automatic create, only when geometry is created with keyed in values. I don't like the other options, some people do. So that means if I go and draw a line on here and go and specify that, currently I'm creating constructions, I'm just going to go and turn that option off so it's not creating. So say I want that to be 60 mil. And as soon as I left click, obviously that line can go anywhere, so we need to just left click just to confirm that. That is then going to place the dimension on that for me, on there. So when you are creating these sketches, we can go and create those dimensions. That means that you're going to end up with those dimensions locked correctly in those appropriate orientations while we're sketching that geometry on there. Okay, so next one we're how do we create a kind of relationship at an angle to a line? So when we're creating the appropriate command, we could use smart dimension or distance between. We've got this option here for use dimension axis. We then specify the line that we want that to be. So that means any dimensions are going to be perpendicular or parallel to that line that we've now drawn. So we can then go and create the appropriate dimension and move that dimension so that is then correct on there. So let's just set that to 8 mil. We've got the parallel relationship, so let's make that parallel with the outside edge. I'm all good on that. Let's do the same on this one. So use dimension axis. Make sure that we've got the appropriate options set on there. And we're going to do it to that edge. And then we do between that line and that edge. And that one, let's go 4 on that one. So we've got those dimensions the way we want them. Okay, so next we have a look at dimensions. So sometimes we have a face to a hole dimension. So currently on here, we've got a certain value. So maybe this part needs to be, center of the hole needs to be 30 mil in front of that face on there. So for this, we're going to go and use the connect relationship. So the connect relationship allows us to be very flexible. This is useful for countersink bolts because it allows us to connect to the key point at the end of the cone. And then otherwise it tends to be that third relationship that's very difficult to do with any other kind of relationship. So we can go and select the plane and we can go and select the hole. We need to be very careful when we're with the hole to make sure that we use our quick pick to go and choose the appropriate axis. So by default that has now gone and set that so that is aligned on there. So I can now go and find this connect relationship. So let me just have a look at my relationship on there and set that value to 30 mil. So I've now got that the way that should be on there. Notice there was another relationship as well on here. So there's another one as well. So I've got this one. So if we want to do, so currently if I just delete that and I'm just going to use my drag component and show you like the degrees of freedom that we've got on there. So I want to make that face parallel with that one. So we can do a mate but what we do, if we do parallel, we're only using edges, so that's edge to edge. So if we want to make two faces parallel, we're going to go and use either a mate or a planar align. So in this instance, it's actually going to be a planar align because we want them facing the same way. So we're going to do that with a float. So I want to select those two faces with a float. So that has now made those two faces parallel to each other on there. Okay, so next we're going to look at removing hidden edges from views. So if we've got orthographic views linked, such as these three, we can actually select all those views at the same time and then go to our properties dialog box. We can't do it with other types of views. So now we can go and turn our hidden edge style off. We can go and see that we've got a grey border showing that those are out of date. And we can then go and update views, and we've then got our hidden views. Any kind of ISO views we'll have to do independently. Any linked views will automatically change to that unless it's, say, an independent detail view. So unless you've done the independent detail view option. Okay, next question, we're talking about revision tables. So if I go to my background on here and go to the appropriate revision table, notice that we've got this revision table is just boxes on here. So this is the standard Siemens one that you get. So if you do want to go and make a change on here, what I tend to do is do move, click on copy, choose the appropriate options that we need. So I want to go and move those, and then go and snap that to the new location, and then go into each of these boxes and go and make that appropriate change on there, and go and do that. So that's that way. If we look at the one that we've got for 1PLM, we actually got this slightly differently. So what we've done, we've used a block. So I've gone into my table command and created a table, and then created this as a block. This is then available elsewhere. So if I go to my little library on here, we can see that I've actually got a revision table block on there, and I can go and open this from here. So this will allow me to go in and have a look at this block. The same block is on all the different size sheets. This I can double click in and go and edit this as though this is a normal kind of Excel style. So I can just go and just tab and go and do the appropriate options on there. I'm just going to keep putting these values in, etc. The good thing about this is as well, if we do get to a large revision, so we can actually click on these and we can go and hide the rows on there. So it means that we're just going to have the 4 or 5 current options when we do that. There are other ways as well to have these links to your properties. So some customers, we've set it up so they go into file properties, and within the custom properties, these values would have revision A comment, and you'll go and put these values in there and they would automatically link up. Okay, next we've got a question about dimensions. So when we're looking at dimensions, you've got these different styles for different dimensions that we can go and change. So if I go and do a 1PLM dimension, it's going to look like that. If I go and change that to my 1PLM radial dimension, it's going to go and change that style. Within that style, we can change lots of options. So on the view tab on here under styles, we can see the dimension types I've got. So I've got a test one on here. So on here, we can go and do all sorts of different options. So we can go and make changes to our units. We can make changes to our text. But sometimes we might want to change that to a period. We might want to show our trailing zeros on there, and we can go and choose our round off on here. So we can go and have a specific one for which one that we want. So I click on there, click apply, and then I go and make the appropriate change on there and go and say, well, that one needs to be my test one. That's going to go and change that to the appropriate option. Notice we've only got the one trailing zero because it is 0 on there, so it depends what the quantity is on there that we've got. You would have to be aware that if you are doing that, you would need to go and change it in your template. So when you do your new location and you find your templates, you can go and find out where your templates are. To find out where your templates are, go to your options dialog box, and then from there we're going to look for file locations. This will tell us where our user templates are. So if you're still using the local ones, they'll be on the C drive. They might be somewhere else on your drive. They might be on a shared drive. For instance, so you can see I've got a shared drive that I've created for my computer. So it looks like I'm looking at a network location just for testing purposes on that. So hopefully that will help go and set those dimensions up. The other one that I find really useful as well is we've got this Smart Select tool as well that allows you to go and select all the dimensions, click on a dimension, That'll allow me to go and highlight all those dimensions. It'll allow me to go and change all those all at the same time and go, I want all these to be 1 PLN rad. And bang, that's going to change all those dimensions quickly for us. Okay, next we're going to have a look at whole callouts. So we can use whole callout in a couple of different ways. We can use our smart dimension, and we can go and choose from this option. This will be nominal by default, and we can change that to feature callout. Personally, I like to use my callout option on here. On here, depending on the age of your template, you might not have the appropriate options on here, but there's this little option on here called feature callout. That then automatically, depending on what we connect to, simple, countable, whatever options, allows us to go and look at these different options on here. We can go and choose the options that we want on there. If the option you want isn't there, chances are it'll be in here, in there. So thread pitch isn't available in that option. So we've got other options that we can go and choose on there. The one thing that the other one that I quite like as well on there is I can go and put a quantity option in there. So let's just do quantity equals, and we can then go and do a feature reference from here as well. So, sorry, not that one, this one. And we've got different options, so I can do quantity all, select OK, and then if I click on a hole, that's then going to look like that. So if I go and click on there, it's going to tell me 8mm diameter, quantity 2. So it's giving me those options, quite clever. Remember, we have always got, in a lot of the commands on Solid Edge, if we go into these, there are these save settings. So once you've done one of these, go and save it. You can see I've got loads on here for different demos and different things that I've had to play out on there. So we can do lots of different kind of whole callouts. So if I go and look at one of the complex ones that I worked with one of our customers, so let's go and have a look at counting whole. It's probably the wrong one, but let's have a look, see what that comes up with. So you can see it's giving the appropriate information rather than saying through or down. It's going to give you the arrow options. We can go and customize those. So that will go and save to a reports location. So again, we can go up to there, we can find reports, find out where that is. We can make sure on a shared location, multiple people can all use that at the same time then. Okay, next one, looking at dimensions and dimension gaps. One little neat thing on here, when we've got these different options, so when we've got that one on there, we can use shift to go and change it from horizontal, vertical to straight, depending on which one's here. If it is the wrong way around and it doesn't work, just use a shift key and that'll just switch that round on there. We can change these gaps, the gaps that we've got on the end, the gaps that we've got here, all in the styles again. So remember, we can go and change that manually from there. So if I go into there and choose properties on there, that will allow me to go and change it on that one. So within there we've got our lines and coordinates, we can do our option, so we've got our different options for our gaps, element gaps, etc. So we can go and change those. They're all linked to the actual text size, to the font size that you've got of your text. So whatever your font size is, this value on here, it's going to be linked to that. So obviously if it's 0.5, it's going to be 1.75 on there. Remember again, styles, change it in those templates again on there. Okay, so the next one I'll look at is adding comments to dimensions. So adding comments, we go into our prefix option and we can go and click whichever option we want. Great thing about this is it will remember any previous options that you've got on there. So if you want any of these options on here, we can go and click on that, and that's then going to go and add those on there. There may also be a save setting as well. So we can go in there and go and choose those save settings. So if you've got 10 different notes that you quite often want, go and save those in. Mine doesn't work quite great because I'm on a 4K screen, but if you're on a normal screen, it is a little bit nicer on there. Again, those save settings are in that report section. So if you are sharing server location, make sure you go in and copy the reports folder to your Solid Edge admin folder, etc. Okay, next question is to do with balloons. So when we default to balloons on Solid Edge, that will actually be linked to your parts list. So we need to go and make sure that we turn the link parts list option off. That will allow us to go and create any kind of custom style balloon. So if we're going to link that to a component, that's then going to say the appropriate option on there. And we can go and obviously go and change the appropriate balloon height to make sure that is the right kind of size that we've got on there as well. So all the parts list options will be physically controlled from the parts list. So if I need to go and change the way they're done, so if I want to go and change the balloons, I can go and change that parts list, and that's then going to change those balloons to suit. So I've just changed that. So rather than indented showing all the parts, it's just showing those. The best way to fix that again, this smart select, really useful. I can do that. Click on the balloon. It's going to allow me to select all the balloons. Deselect the one that I don't want on there, and then we can go and delete those balloons. I can delete my alignment shape on there, and then I can go and recreate those balloons when I go and place a parts list. This time I'm going to untick place parts list. So I've got option place balloons, place parts list. I'm going to untick that option, and that is just going to go and place the balloons. So if I click on there, that has then gone and recreated those balloons linked to the parts list that I've got on there. Okay, next question is about profile end conditions. So I'll just come back into this sketch. So when we are drawing lines, we're going to get two different options. So if I go and connect a line to there, it's connected to the line, not the end condition. It's going to give us a little cross icon on there. If we connect it to the endpoint, it's going to give us a little square icon. So we can clearly see how those are connected to those. If you need to go and change that, so if I go and drag that line and try and snap that to the endpoint, it's still going to be line on option. So the only option is just to do a little kind of fence select on there to get rid of it and go and recreate it. There isn't a way to switch from one to the other. One neat little trick though, when we are drawing lines, if you want to do that line, so I want to start a line on there, if I click on that and click E when I'm hovering over that line, it's going to snap to the nearest end condition on there as well. So we've got M, where it'll go and snap to the mid position. So I'll click on that one, and so I'm not doing anything with the mouse, I'm just moving the mouse, hover over the line so it goes orange, click M, that is then going to go and snap that to that position on there. If I want to go and snap to a center position as well, hover over, don't actually go over the center, hover over the line itself and press C, that will then go and take it to there. We can also snap to a intersect point as well. So if ever your sketch goes wonky because you press the middle button, Control H takes us back to that normal view on there as well. So if I want to create a line, I want to create that to the intersection of that line and that line. I'll hover over that line and press I. It's then going to give me the intersect point. I'm looking for that other line being highlighted. To know that's the intersect point, we can see we've got the two red dotted line going up to the top right hand corner of the screen. That is then going to finish that line at that intersection point for us. Okay, that's the end of those questions. Hopefully there's been something useful there. If you have any questions, please comment. That'd be great. Thank you.